Welcome to the Introverted Misfit podcast with me, Caroline Smith, where you'll discover how to become a socially confident version of yourself while embracing your inner misfit. Chances are that you've gone your whole life thinking you have to fake being someone you're not just to fit in. You've got to exude lively, extroverted sociability to have the social life you've always wanted. Well, not here you don't. On this podcast, we'll discuss the different ways you can connect and communicate like the introverted misfit that you are. Enjoy the show, Misfit! Hello to all of you who are tuning into this episode of the Introverted Misfit podcast. Wow, that intro sounds really weird because it's been a long time since I have published or at least recorded an episode. So firstly, Happy New Year, because this is the first podcast episode that I am recording and publishing of 2026. And if you're new here, I publish episodes every Monday. But as you may or may not know, that schedule has been thrown off for the past really 3 months by some major events that occurred in my personal life last year. 2025 was simultaneously one of the best and worst years of my life, if that's even possible, to have the best and worst years of your life in the same year, or the best and worst year of your life in the same year. So all in 1 year, 2025, near the beginning of the year, I got to witness my latest nephew be born into the world. That was the first birth that I've ever witnessed before, and it was even more special that it was my nephew. And I got to witness that along with our other sister, our eldest sister, and my mom. And then also last year, I started hosting my monthly Misfit meetups for people in the surrounding area where I currently live. But just last month, my family also had to bury my mother after watching her battle not one, but 2 cancers ever since 2024. Breast cancer first, which is technically the one that she survived, and then 3 months later, an aggressive form of leukemia that has no cure. So, needless to say, my business has taken kind of a back seat recently, but I think that I am finally ready to make the commitment to jumping back into things, starting with my podcast. But I don't want to start off this podcast on such a sad note. So let me just say that I am so grateful for the 27 years that I got to spend with my mother. I'm thankful for all of the loving memories that I got, the funny moments, the compassionate moments, and most importantly, I am mostly at peace knowing that my mom is no longer suffering from such a terrible illness. So, that is my quote-unquote happy lead into this episode. So let's talk about socializing in a way that works for you. As an introvert who may also struggle with shyness and social difficulties, have you ever felt like you need to act like someone you're not so that people will like you? When you walk into social events, do you think to yourself, no one will talk to me if I don't put on this ultra happy face, this ultra happy mask and personality and pretend to be a social butterfly? I know I did once upon a time, many years ago. I believe I have told the story of my ultra extroverted older sister quite a few times on this podcast and across my various platforms before, but it's such a perfect example of this general topic that I will continue to tell it anywhere it makes sense. And it's a short story, so that's good too. My sister is the definition of a people person, a social butterfly. She knows how to work a room. She will strike up a conversation with anyone who will listen. I'm not exaggerating when I say that this woman can walk into a room full of strangers, and within 10 minutes, she will have 5 new friends. On a bad day, seriously. The most frustrating thing for me, or at least what used to be the most frustrating thing for me when I still struggled with my social confidence, was watching her talk to all of these people without even trying. She just automatically knew how to connect with people and socialize in that way. She didn't need any rule book to tell her how to do it. She didn't need to study people and figure out what they like, what they don't like. She just did it. Her brain is just wired that way. Even since she was a child, as I've heard from my parents and my other family members describe. I remember when we would go to events together, and I would be kind of jealous of how she could just make connections and acquaintances, and I would even say friends, so easily. And me being the introvert that I am, autistic at that, there really was nothing else I could do at that point in my life except sit on the sidelines and just be envious of who I would never be. Well, as it turns out, there are a whole lot more introverted misfits out there who felt the exact same way that I did. Sometime last year, it was many, many months ago, I did a poll of shy and socially awkward introverts in a Facebook group that I'm a part of. And I simply asked if they struggled with feeling jealous of social butterflies, aka extroverts, who can talk to people with ease and charisma. And to no surprise of my own, an overwhelming majority of them, about 72%, answered yes. So if you have ever felt yourself being envious of how the social butterflies of the world go about socializing and meeting people, this episode is for you. We're going to talk about how you can use social strategies that work for you and your abilities and your limits, not someone else's social strategies that simply don't work for you. And then stay tuned until the end, because towards the end of this episode, I have a little teaser to a bigger announcement that I will make in just a couple of weeks. Now, I'll just give you a hint right now. I'm planning a workshop just for introverts like you who want social strategies for navigating social events and gatherings, which is pretty much the entire topic of this podcast episode, is kind of the general idea of how you can do that. But the workshop itself is really going to go in depth on how to do this. So stay tuned for when I tell you more about how you can join the waitlist for that workshop and get your tickets when I officially announce it. And of course, I will also be including some tips in this podcast episode for quote unquote normal introverts who may not be on the autism spectrum. And I'll also include some advice for those of you who are on the spectrum like myself. First, I want to talk about what I do not mean when I say socialize in a way that works for you and not them. You know how sometimes when people start saying words like us and them, there's that group of people who think that, I don't know, we shouldn't use quote unquote divisive language like that because it just further prevents us from being unified. Well, I do not believe that giving people the specialized support that they need during the time that they need it is divisive. Quite the opposite, actually. I think it makes them more equipped to be included in the rest of society. Don't read into that. That's really not meant to be a political statement necessarily. It's just meant to be a humanitarian statement in every human aspect you can think of. So What I do mean when I make that statement of socializing in a way that works for you and not them, it's basically what I was describing in the beginning when I was telling you the story of my sister. Because everybody's social brain is a little different, which means the way people socialize will look different. Now, there may be some social norms that everyone is expected to follow, but the way in which we go about learning those and studying them and thinking about them and implementing those social rules is different, especially when you talk about how people are raised and their background and the values that they were raised with and all of that stuff. So the way that my sister can sit down among a group of people that she's never met before and immediately make herself at home is not going to look the same for those of us who really struggle with group conversations and group dynamics like that. And I'm here to tell you that that is okay. It's okay to be a little different and to have different social strengths and weaknesses. It's not the end of the world. At least I don't think it is. And I don't think you should think that either. So how can you socialize in a way that works for you and what you can do? Number one, there's 3 points. Number one, stop trying to be 100% perfect. This is one of the core concepts of my messaging on my entire platform and my coaching services. In fact, the tagline of my business is become socially confident without being loud or perfect. What if I told you that trying to be 100% socially perfect, especially if you are on the spectrum, is fighting a losing battle? What if I told you that actually trying to be 100% perfect in every little thing you do and say, and then getting all bent out of shape because you didn't do everything right, is actually keeping you from learning and growing in your social confidence journey? Making mistakes in anything, any area of life, is how you learn and grow. Okay? If you're not failing, you're not succeeding. You have to fail to learn and grow and eventually figure out, this social game, but this game called life in general. And I know there might be some discourse about whether or not we should be calling these mistakes when you're considering the nature of autism spectrum disorder. But for the purposes of this conversation about social interactions and socializing, I am just using the word mistakes to mean doing something that was unexpected and may get interpreted the wrong way. That's what mistakes mean. So those 1 or 2 awkward, cringy things that you said that you can't stop obsessing over, in reality, nobody is thinking about those moments nearly as much as you are. Tell me if this scenario sounds familiar. You say something awkward or a little weird, and then people don't respond in the way you hoped they would respond. Maybe they chuckle or side-eye you, and then you think to yourself, I might as well just give up trying. I can't do anything right. So then you get demotivated and you do what you've always done. You withdraw back into yourself and just stay quiet for the rest of the time. You stay inside of your own head where it's a lot safer and where nobody is going to laugh at you or reject you. Well, when you stop trying to be 100% perfect and you learn how to stop obsessing over every little mistake, you give yourself permission to be yourself and to keep trying so that you can learn and grow from those little awkward moments. You give yourself permission to keep socializing and talking to people and meeting new people until you do finally meet people who fit well with your personality and who will forgive those little mistakes that you make and those little quirks that you may have. I remember just a few weeks ago, I was in church. It was after the morning service that we have. The service had just ended, and I was just walking around and mingling, and there was a lot going on. Everybody was talking and fellowshipping, and it was kind of loud. It was a busy Sunday, and there was just a lot going on. And I was talking to one of the members, member who I've known for basically my entire life. She's known me since I was a child. I was talking to this woman, and then another church member walks up to us because I guess the woman that I was talking to, she had needed to give him something, needed to give him a check. So as I'm talking to this woman, she starts to hand the check to him, like move the check in his direction. And because it was just so loud and it was so busy and I was a little bit overstimulated, without even realizing it, I start to reach my hand out as if I'm going to grab the check. And it took me a few seconds to realize that they were both looking at me very confused because the check was not even coming in my direction. She was handing it to him, and I don't know what happened. For whatever reason, my hand just starts going towards the check as if I'm about to grab it, and they both are like side-eyeing me and looking at me like, what are you doing? And so then I kind of jumped and started apologizing, and they understood. They understood that it was a mistake. But I can remember a time in my life when a mistake like that, the side eyes, the confused looks, it would have triggered some serious feelings of rejection within me. But now it was kind of like water off a duck's back for me. It didn't bother me as much as it used to. I just apologized, moved on with the discussion, and everybody forgot about it. And I was only able to get better at that with lots of socializing and making mistakes, such as that one, so that I could learn how to handle these situations better, and manage my emotions more in a better way. So if you were waiting for someone to give you that permission, here it is. You have permission to stop trying to be socially perfect. You have permission to try your best and make mistakes and then learn from them, which is really all life is about in every single way, every aspect of life. Number 2, don't pretend to be someone you're not. That extroverted social butterfly that I was talking about in the beginning, you don't have to act like that. There are people, both introverts and extroverts, by the way, who will appreciate your more reserved way of being and socializing. And for my Spectrum listeners, I'm going to tell you this from personal experience. Okay? It's no secret that most of us have to what we call mask every day if we want people to talk to us, right? But putting on the extroverted social butterfly mask when you are truly more of an introvert is like the fastest way to burn yourself out in social situations. It's going to make you tired quicker. It may cause you to get overstimulated much more easily than if you were to just mask within your means. And when I say mask within your means, I mean masking in a way that doesn't require you to act completely out of character to the point where you're literally presenting a different personality than what you can sustain. Masking within your means, that might be a good topic for a future episode. So I'm going to make a note of that. But anyway, I know some of you listening are hearing me say, don't pretend to be someone you're not. And you're thinking, well, just by changing my social behavior, aren't I already doing that? I'm already pretending to be someone I'm not in a way, right? And my answer to that is not exactly. You're not changing who you are at your core just by modifying your communication. Okay? It's not like you have to agree with everything that someone says or pretend to be interested in something or pretend to not be interested in something just so that someone will like you. Or you don't have to pretend to be all happy-go-lucky when that's not who you are. That's what I'm really getting at here. There's a difference between altering your communication or improving your communication and your social skills and just flat out changing who you are to fit in. When you start changing who you are just so that you can make friends, I'm going to tell you the two primary things that might happen to you. The first, you will feel forced to keep portraying this unsustainable mask, because if people are initially attracted to that extroverted personality that you're presenting, then that's what they're going to expect later on. And that gets very tiring very quickly for you, right? Because now those people expect that you're going to enjoy going out every weekend to these very busy, crowded, overstimulating environments. And when you no longer want to go out with them to those places, they'll be confused as to why. And then number two, the second thing that might happen is you're not going to meet people who actually like you and like your true personality. You aren't going to attract the people who are truly interested in you because they're interested to the extroverted social butterfly facade that you're putting on. Now, disclaimer. I am aware that there will be situations in which you kind of have to put on that extroverted front a little bit, and there's no escaping it. Maybe you have to go to a conference for work or some other work-related event and talk to a bunch of people for a few days. I've been there before. Or maybe you're an introvert in more of an extroverted type of job. So these things happen. But I believe that even in those scenarios, there are ways that you can cope and manage your social butterfly more efficiently, which, by the way, is exactly what my workshop is going to be about. So again, stay tuned for that pre-announcement towards the end, which is going to help you learn how to manage in those situations. And lastly, number 3, find your staple social strategies and stick to them. Now, I don't mean for this point to sound like you can never try anything new or learn a new social strategy that goes a little outside of your comfort zone. Not at all. I feel like I've learned a lot of new social skills and strategies that I never thought I would be doing. My parents never thought I would be doing that. Just a few months ago, before my mom passed, I was having a conversation with her about my meetups, and she was telling me how, just based on how I was in my childhood and my teenage years and really the first half of my adult years, she never would have thought that I would be the one hosting and facilitating in-person social gatherings for people, let alone hosting these gatherings for people who also don't really like being around other people that much. So you can learn to do a lot of things that may right now seem out of your reach. But all I'm saying with this point is that until you get to that point where you can venture out, stick to what works for you. And then go out of that comfort zone bit by bit. But stick to what works first. So if you're trying to overcome social anxiety or shyness, or you're trying to get more comfortable with your social abilities, I don't think that putting yourself so outside of the box like that, I don't think that's going to be helpful. So if one-to-one interactions and one-on-one conversations are less scary for you, do that first. If smaller groups of people are less overwhelming for you, stick to those for now. If you have this one particular conversation starter that gets the best results for you, use that one more so than the other ones until you can kind of master that one. To be honest, even in my present state as someone who I would consider myself to be socially confident, no longer struggles with social anxiety, but of course I'm still a major introvert. I still mainly rely on my staple strategies, the ones that I'm going to be teaching in that workshop, especially when I am in new environments. And even if I do end up branching out of that comfort zone, I am always going to start with those staples until I know it's safe to venture out, for lack of a better word. So my sister, her unofficial strategy is, and I say unofficial because remember, she's a social butterfly, so she doesn't have to think about this stuff as deeply as we do. Her unofficial strategy is to walk in a room and literally say hello to everyone who is in there. Everyone who walks into the room, she's greeting them. She's waving them over to come join the rest of the group. And that works for her. People are attracted to that. The people who she's meant to attract are attracted to that. And she knows how to use those strategies the best. And they get a really good response from almost everyone that she meets. But what works for you and me is probably not going to look like that. And again, even after all of the work that I have done, my social strategy will never look like that. Ever. I will never in my life will I just be like, loudly saying in front of everybody something, a joke, and then not even being embarrassed about it. And then there are just some things that I'm never going to do. Okay. Hopefully you get the point. Now, of course, when I'm hosting an event, like one of my meetups or something else or my workshops, that's different. So in that scenario, I am the organizer of the event. So when people come, they're kind of looking to me for some sort of direction. But in a real life scenario, where I'm just a regular person at a conference or somewhere else, my strategies are pretty much the same. And like the point suggests, I stick to them until I have to go out of that comfort zone. And that works for me. So those are my 3 points for how to socialize in a way that works for you and not others. Number 1, stop trying to be 100% perfect. Number 2, do not pretend to be someone you're not. And number 3, find your staple social strategies and stick to them. So, all of that brings me to my pre-announcement teaser. My first workshop of 2026, Introvert-Friendly Social Strategies for Gatherings and Events. This is a workshop specifically for introverts who tend to be more quiet and reserved in group social settings. And if you also happen to struggle with shyness and any kind of social difficulties, you definitely need to be in this workshop when I officially announce it and open registration. I'm working really hard on making this a workshop worth attending for every single one of you who listens and follows my platform, which means I do not yet have a date, time, or price. Although I can tell you it will be very affordable. And I will be opening registration within the next couple of weeks. So until then, I want to encourage you to join the waitlist for this workshop using the link in the description. Or you can go to theintrovertedmisfit.com/workshop and you just put in your name and email, join the waitlist, and as soon as it is open for registration, I will be sending that email out, and you can reserve your spot. So if you are one of my listeners who has ever considered working with me and wondering what a coaching relationship would look like with me, especially in my long-term program, Communicate with Quiet, Quirky Confidence, I will say this workshop is a really great opportunity for you to just get a taste of what working with me might look like on a long-term basis. So I hope you will consider joining that wait list and ultimately buying your ticket when I do finally announce when I make that official announcement. So again, go to theintrovertedmisfit.com/workshop, one word, and that link will also be in the description. And that is all for today's episode. As always, if you enjoyed this talk, please don't forget to hit the follow or subscribe button, leave a review and or a comment, whether you're tuning in on YouTube, Spotify podcasts, Apple podcasts, and share this podcast with a friend. Thanks for listening and have a great day. Hey, Misfit. If you enjoyed today's show, there's more where that came from. I want to invite you to join the Introverted Misfit newsletter so that you'll never miss an episode. In addition to being notified about new podcast episodes every week, you'll receive more value-packed content from me that will nurture your inner misfit and help you find and manage your very own introvert-friendly community. You can find the link in the description, the show notes, or you can go directly to theintrovertedmisfit.com/newsletter. I'll see you there.